All right. Welcome everyone. My name is Augustino Pintus. I'm with Bulletproof Cash Flow. Today I want to talk to you guys about how to get into the multifamily space, right? How do you make that leap to multifamily? So we're going to try to drop a whole lot of great information here. If you have any questions, by all means, go ahead and put them in the chat. Okay. And happy to try to answer some of those questions to really help people get started in the game. Because I can tell you what, right now we're headed into some tough economic times. We're currently in tough economic times today, and it's nothing compared to what's coming. So whenever you hear me talk about investing in real estate, it's about converting these little pieces of paper, these dollars that we get, these digits, they're just digits in a computer. That's all they are. And converting them to an actual hard asset that produces money, that produces cash. Okay, that's what we're looking for here. So that's the whole intent behind what it is that we're trying to do here is not spending money on things that you don't really need today, but rather positioning it so we're just putting it into hard assets like multifamily. Okay. I can tell you that what we do, or what we do first of all, I'll tell you a little bit about what Bulletproof Cash Flow is, what we do, that kind of thing. So, so myself, my partners, we have 4 lines of business, and the first 3 are primarily in real estate, and the last one is Bulletproof Cash Flow, which is the education and media side. But the first 3 are interesting. The first line of business is the acquisition of stable multifamily assets. This is your B and C type of properties. So this includes your C-class assets. We acquired these assets, we fix them up, we make them better, we make the communities better. And there too, we try to create great home environments for the people that live there and increase the rents as we go, refinance, return money to investors, and just keep on doing that play. You know, it's a simple value add strategy that works when it's executed properly. The second line of business is our development business. So this includes adaptive reuse of existing office buildings, which is a big part of what's happening these days. As many people are shifting, the Gen Z especially is shifting this whole thing from going into an office to working from home and working remotely. The need for office is not as strong as it used to be. So what's happening is that many of these banks are taking these offices back, and then they're handing them over to guys like us, and then we take them, reposition them, and create homes for people, right? That's a big part of our business. We also do ground up development too. So I like doing urban infill type of projects where we go in and we find an area like a city or what's already existing, and we build in that city. Okay, as opposed to building units out in the middle of nowhere. I'm not mad at those deals. I'm okay with those deals. We just don't do those types of deals. I prefer to do urban infill. I like that whole adage where there's activity, there's money. Where there's activity, there's money. That's what I'm looking for. I like activity. When you're in the downtown area, you see people walking around, you see cars driving around, you see activity happening. Whenever there's activity, transactions are taking place, and you want to be part of those transactions in one way, shape, or form. So that's why I like doing those types of deals. The third line of real estate business that we do is the acquisition of net lease assets. So think of Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Walgreens, CVS, Advanced Auto Parts, VCA, that's the animal hospitals, stuff like that. So we go in, we acquire those assets, and we deliver monthly cash flow to our investors on that deal, right? So those are the 3 lines of business that we do. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the Bulletproof Cash Flow business is really there to help people get into the real estate game. That's what it's there for, right? And really give people a fighting chance to build some success in the world of real estate. Because I didn't have that type of success, guys, early on. I didn't have anybody helping me out, right? No one successful was trying to help me out get into the real estate game. I had to figure it out on my own, right? I was doing the single family thing a long time ago, 17 years ago, thereabouts, actually, 17, almost 18 years ago at this point. And I didn't even know what multifamily was. I thought multifamily was limited to duplexes and stuff like that. You know, it tells you that's how long ago it was, right? I had no idea. And you know, it's a great line of business to get into when it comes to a real estate game. Sure, single family is nice. Again, not mad at single family, but when you are able to acquire 4 units, you're spreading out your risk. The more units you have, the risk is reduced. You think about it, right? If you have one single family and you're renting it out and that person leaves, your rent goes like this, easy, a month over month, and it goes to zero, right? Not a good scene. And so what you want to try to do is the more units you have, it's okay if you lose 1 or 2 tenants. Conceivably, if you buy it properly, you could still at least make the mortgage payment, nothing coming out of your pocket, and you're still providing housing to people, and you're okay, right? That's ultimately what we're trying to do, is help people get into the single family game here. So like I said, 16, 17, almost 18 years ago at this point, I started off in this game. I was doing the whole single family thing, but it wasn't until I started doing the small multifamily. That's when I realized that there's so much more to the real estate game. And again, I didn't have anyone really coaching me. I was focused on corporate life. I was focused on doing the whole corporate thing. And it just wasn't for me, guys. It wasn't for me. I'm not, after working in corporate for that long and had some success at it, I realized that, you know what? I really don't want to do that anymore. I really want to be able to spend my time as I choose with who I choose to spend it with. And real estate was able to free me up to I guess, get away from the whole corporate thing and live life on my own terms. That doesn't mean that I don't do anything, right? Certainly it does not mean that. Obviously, if you're running all these lines of business, I'm staying pretty busy, right? But I guess you could say it's more of an integrated life, right? Where if you're able to build a portfolio of these assets that are producing cash for you, right? You're managing a portfolio of assets as opposed to going to a job that you probably don't not crazy about doing and taking up that time that you have in your life force, so to speak. It's you get to take your time back and spend it doing what you want to do, because when you're living an integrated life, is what I call integrated life, right? Where you're spending time as you choose, where you choose it, especially in the world of real estate, you can rent it from just about anywhere, right? But first things first, you got to start thinking bigger, and you have to set the goals first, right? That's the first thing, especially for someone starting out right now. Sure, it sounds all great. It sounds super to go and not worry about having a boss or anything else like that or whatever. But the first things first is you got to set the goals. You got to set the goals. Okay. Without the goals, it's going to be very, very hard to really get to where you want to go. Setting the goals is a big part of defining your vision and taking the steps to getting there. If you somewhat define it up front, to know like what the touch points are they're going to have to hit to get to where you want to go, then you're going to have a better chance of actually seeing that goal come to fruition. Here's what I mean. Let's say, for instance, someone's out there right now and you're saying, hey, listen, I want to get my hands on a fourplex. Great. It doesn't matter what it is, honestly. It could be a fourplex, it could be a 40, it could be 400. Doesn't matter. It's the same process, guys. Same process. All right. But what does it mean? Well, if you want to acquire a fourplex in the next 6 months, so here's 6 months. What do you think the type of action is going to be necessary to execute between here and 6 months? Well, you're probably going to have to talk to a lot of brokers, a lot of real estate agents. You have to meet with a lot of folks, right? Certainly, you're going to have to get pre-approved. You're going to have that in hand prior to looking at any deals. Before you even do that, you have to get your finances in order. You have to get your house in order. Is your credit okay? Do you have enough income to qualify for the loan itself? Because again, if it's less than 4 units, it's a residential loan. If it's greater than 4 units, it's a commercial loan. Two different scenarios, okay? But we're talking about fourplex here for a second. Is your credit cleaned up? Do you have the cash available? Do you have everything cleaned up ahead of time, right? These are all like micro goals within the big goal here, right? Once you have your goals established and you start visualizing where that asset is, right? That's important too, is visualizing where the asset's going to be, picking the right asset in the right location. Here's the thing, guys. For many of you guys listening out there, we have people listening all over the world. Picking the right deal in the right area, down to the neighborhood matters. It matters. And the reason why is because the way that those local governments operate, it could have an impact, a direct impact on your ability to operate the asset. Because I'll tell you right now, buying a deal is super easy compared to running it for 10 years straight profitably. That's the hard part. Buying it is easy, running it is hard. You'll find that for many, many people out there, I'm sure you hear about these guys on social media all the time. So-and-so bought a property, and then 2-3 years later, they go under. Well, buying it is easy. That's the easy part. Getting it over the line and running it is hard, right? Because any bank will give you a loan for it, within reason, of course. But if it's a bad deal and you don't know you have a bad deal on your hands, that could cause a problem. Okay, so making sure you got the right deal matters. So now here's the thing. Before I go on, if you're really interested in learning more about how this type of stuff works, how do you get into that right deal? How do you know you have a good deal on your hands, especially if you've never done it before? How do you know? Well, we have a program that really helps people do this stuff, right? It's an all immersive program. It's a mastermind. So there's a video component to it. And then we also do a weekly mastermind for 50 weeks straight. We do a mastermind. We get on a group call, and we go over some of your deals. We go over some of the things, some of the blockages you're encountering and things like that. So if you're interested in doing either small multifamily or big multifamily, we cover both. So definitely check that out if you're really interested in doing some work in the multifamily space. Okay, it's all immersive. It really gets you prepared to take down the right deals. Because I'll tell you what, right now the market is sticky. I will say this. I mean, it's no secret. Market's sticky right now. However, the market will loosen up, and you want to be ready for it. You want to be ready for it. You don't want to have to think, oh, well, I'll wait for the market to get better. Why? If you learn how to do it today, if you learn how to underwrite a deal today and execute properly ahead of time, when you do see that deal, you can jump all over it and grab it. Okay, that's the reason why you study, you train now. It isn't like someone that prepares to go to the Olympics. They just start practicing, 6 months prior. They're practicing for years prior, years of getting ready for the big show, right? It's kind of like that. There's a big show coming. You want to be ready for it. Okay, you want to be ready for it. So anyway, so like I said, it's establishing that goal and working your way backwards to see what it's going to take to get to where you want to go. Whether it's 4 units, 40 units, 400 units, doesn't matter. It's the same thing, the same goal setting. Because here's the thing: once you have the goal documented and set up in front of you in a vision board, and you see it in front of you all the time, and you start tracking it, you look at it every day, and you study it every day, and you keep it in the back of your mind every day, it will come to fruition. So that's the first step. Okay, so before you take the leap into the whole real estate space, okay, there's 5 differences that you need to know between doing some of the smaller deals and some of the bigger deals. Okay, there's a lot of things that are the same between them, but for the most part, there are some differences. So let's go over them really quick. So when it comes to the first thing is the numbers. The numbers are typically different between small deals and big deals. Okay, and small deals and like say single family deals, right, versus multifamily deals. Again, 2 different types of scenarios. On a single family deal, you have a single family deal looking at like just what a projected rent is on a single asset. Okay, and that's it. However, when you look at a multifamily deal, okay, you're looking at every aspect of the purchase itself. Okay, meaning you're looking at certainly you're looking at the neighborhood. It's always important. You're looking at traffic. It's always important. However, with a single family versus a multifamily, the single family is mainly gauged around emotion. The driver of the single family asset is driven by the assets around it. Okay, with a multifamily, it's driven by how much cash it produces. That's the difference. That's big. It's a big deal. Okay, sure, you're going to have to track the maintenance issues between the two properties. Of course you do. You always have to keep track of what sort of maintenance issues you're going to have. Is a roof bad? Is a basement bad? What sort of HVAC issues? Of course, of course. However, the primary driver here that you're looking at is the neighborhood itself. Okay, bigger multifamily is run like a business. It's run like a business, where a single family is run like a typical household. Two very different ways of thinking. Now, for someone to get into a fourplex, which, hey, listen, if someone wants to get into the multifamily game and they're concerned about the means of getting there, I'm fine with it. Get into it. Fine. Do a duplex if you have to. Get into it, because here's the thing. I think that once you take that first step into doing multifamily, you're going to see, you see it actually happening, unfolding before you. It's like, oh, wow, I just got a check. I remember that's what happened to me. First time I did my first deal, I got a check, and I was like, I was all like surprised about it. You know, it was crazy. But it was at that point I realized, like, I need to keep doing this. This is phenomenal. The money just rolls in. It's mailbox money. You know, it's truly mailbox money. You know, so but I took that first deal to get it done, right? So that's why I strongly suggest it. So if someone's looking at it, what are they going to look for? Okay, you're going to look at you're going to look at something called a rent roll. A rent roll, if someone's looking at a multifamily versus a single family, well, a single family is just rent. That's it. You get a lease with a rent amount. With a multifamily, you're looking at what's called a rent roll. The rent roll defines the person's name, how long the lease is, what the rent is, how much money they put in security deposit, stuff like that, right? And you have a roll. It's almost like a roll call, all right, of every single tenant that's in the deal, in the asset. Okay, and again, whether it's a fourplex, 40, 400, doesn't matter. There's a rent roll attached to it. It should also identify whether there's Section 8, whether the market rent, whatever it is, you know. So you want to pay close attention to that, depending on how you plan on using that asset. If you're going to house hack, for instance, which you can house hack a 4-unit, by the way, which if someone's renting right now and they want to get into the multifamily game, hey, listen, you can go ahead and do an FHA loan for 3.5%. Go buy a fourplex. Go move into one of the units and rent the rest of them out. Okay, but maybe you don't want Section 8 people as your neighbors. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. Not on me, but maybe it's a thing that you don't want in your life. The rent roll should tell you that. The rent roll should tell you who's living there and what they're all about. Okay, you're going to have the maintenance costs as well, right? Maintenance costs on a multifamily deal, on a small multifamily deal anyway, are going to be slightly greater than it would be on a single family, right? Why? Well, obviously, I mean, you have more people living there. But you know what, though? Maintenance costs are going to be largely dependent on the asset, the age of the asset, where it's located, things like that, you know. So you're gonna have to, but you want to know what the maintenance costs are. You're gonna look at the vacancy factors, right? In terms of what is the vacancy of that area? What is the vacancy of the asset itself? You're gonna want to have reserve funds. Now, reserves are this is extra money set aside in case you run into a serious issue of some kind. Maybe you have a burst pipe or something, you know, maybe your sewer line bursts or busted up or something happens or whatever, or maybe you have some sort of other type of issue. Maybe there's a fire, who knows, maybe a tree falls in the building, whatever, right? There's insurance, of course, but there's always some sort of money you're gonna have to use to fix it in the interim, right? You always want to set money aside for reserve. And this doesn't matter whether it's a single family or multifamily or big multifamily, you're putting more money into reserve, but you're always keeping reserves no matter what happens. Okay. And something that you probably never heard of is economic and physical occupancy. And what does that mean? Or rather, economic and physical vacancy. Both are vacancy. Economic means everyone's paying, or some people are paying, or whatever. And this is a true number of how many people are paying and how many people are not living there. Okay, versus physical. How many people are living there and just not paying? Be aware. You have to be aware of these sorts of things when you're looking at a deal, right? If you're buying a fourplex and for whatever reason, two of the tenants decide I'm not paying rent now because of COVID or whatever, right? Some other made up excuse. You want to be aware of that, because just because the body's living there doesn't mean they're paying. So you want to know that they're paying, and you have to verify all this information. How do you verify the information? Well, show me the bank statements. Show me the money going into the bank for each one of these four people. If the seller can't produce that information, it could be a problem, right? So something to consider. What else you look at? You're also looking at different types of lending, right? Typically on some bigger multifamily anyway, you can get something called interest-only loans, right? Where you just pay the interest only as opposed to the interest in the principal. If you're talking about small multifamily, like I said, 1 to 4 units, those are just going to be just basic type of home loan that you typically would get, which these days are doing like 40-year mortgages. I've not yet seen those deals up close and personal in terms of the loan, how it works or whatnot. But that's a very appealing type of deal if you're able to get that type of loan for a fourplex, because your cash flow, your personal cash flow would be tremendously great if you have 4 people that are paying you, and then you're paying the mortgage, and you keep the delta. It's a good deal. It's a very good deal, right? Finally, one thing you have to look for is the broker's pro forma, right? Keep in mind, whenever you're looking at pro formas, whenever you're looking at material that's sent over from a real estate agent, from a broker, whatever it is, it's marketing. It's all marketing. They will make the property look like it's made out of gold. Okay, it's I can assure you it's not. Here's the thing. Okay, what you want to do is make sure that the asset itself is, when you go see it, is it a real asset? Does it look good? Is it a good shape? That kind of thing. Because again, it's propaganda, it's marketing. Look at the data. Always look at the data. And what I do when I look at a property is I walk the property. I take off my owner glasses for a second and put myself in the shoes of a person living there. What I want to live there. That's what I think about. What I want to live here, what I want to live here, what I want to live here. And I'm walking around and I start looking at the property through the eyes of a person who would live there. And how does it make me feel? And if I feel good about it, then great. If I don't feel good about it, then what's wrong with it? And then I write it down. Maybe these are things that I can fix, and I build it into my budget, right? That's how you have to look at it, right? What matters most is the numbers, and when you go look at the property. The pro forma is always nice. They always do an amazing job with the pro forma. They have to. It's their job, to sell the property. They want to get the views, right? But you want to go see the property. But these are all things you have to account for when you're looking at any type of deal, whether it's whether it's a small multifamily, big multifamily, whatever the case may be. These are all things that are common across the board. Okay. So the thing is, though, is that you need to understand what all the terminology is too, right? Because people don't really know what NOI is, and net operating income. That is really the thing that matters the most, by the way. Net operating income matters more than cap rate. Everybody has this thing over cap rate. Cap rate is really related specifically to assets that always produces very similar or the same amount of cash month over month over month, like our net lease products do. When it comes to multifamily, it doesn't always operate that way. Why? Because you have people living there, and people cause the operating expenses to go up and down, right? And if it goes up and down, And it makes it very, very tough to figure out a cap rate consistently, right? So these are things that they have to consider. So again, it's important to know where every single dollar is going. Okay, if you're relying on projections that a broker gave you, I never do, honestly. I always do my own projections because I want to understand what's going on with the property. I want to understand what's going on with the local area, how fast it is, because no matter what, the guys or girls that are selling the asset, they're incentivized to push the asset, unload it, get rid of it as fast as possible. We have to do your own due diligence, understand where all the numbers are, okay, and what they mean. So again, make sure that when you're looking at these deals, when the broker sends it over to you, that you know what you're looking at. Speaking of broker, before you talk to any type of broker, you have to know your terminology. And what do I mean by that? You have to be able to speak the language of the real estate agent, speak the language of the broker. It's very, very important, because if you go in talking to these folks and you don't sound like you know what you're doing, you sound like a newbie, they may not talk to you again, right? So what you want to do is make sure that you have the lingo down. And that's very, very important. You know, we go over stuff like this in our training stuff too, by the way. You know, when we show people how to find these types of deals, we have a whole process around how to talk to brokers and what to say and how to say it and things like that. So it's very good for you to check that out. By the way, I also have a downloadable book as well. It's an ebook on how to talk to brokers. If you go to www.guidetobrokers.com, go ahead and check that out. And yeah, go ahead and download it. It's totally free. Check it out. Okay, we did a really good job putting that book together. Okay, what's the second thing? Increased paperwork and increased timeframes. You know, so it stands to reason that as you start doing your due diligence on a deal, on a small single family deal, it's pretty easy to do, right? It's one single family house. There's not a whole lot to it. It's usually pretty easy as far as a rental is concerned anyway, right? However, with even a small multifamily, you're going to have to look at 4 of the units if it's a fourplex. You have to look at the basements. You have to do all your inspections. It may take a little more time. If you're doing even a bigger deal with commercial type of deals, it's going to take even longer. The paperwork's going to take even longer than that. So what you want to do is make sure that you have your due diligence time frame in place. Okay, if it's a big deal, 5 units or more, the lender is going to ask for a lot more information than they will on a small deal, on a residential deal. Okay, like I said, with a residential deal, like I said, it's largely made up of your personal income. Your personal income is taken into account, whereas with a larger deal, commercial deal, it's underwritten as a business. Who's living there? What are they paying? Are there long-term leases? That type of thing. There's no Airbnbs or anything else like that. They're looking at the long-term leases in place that are up and running right now. That's what they're looking at. Okay, and they pay very close attention to that. They want to see the rent rolls. They want to see the financials. They want to know the repair. If there's any repairs that were done, what sort of repairs are done, what sort of estimates are going to be necessary to fix anything else that's outstanding, right? So these are things that you want to know, possibly even ahead of time of even making an offer, right? You want to be able to get in there and try to at least have an idea as to what you're dealing with before you start getting in there and start throwing around numbers with the broker and with the seller, right? In both cases, whether it's a small multifamily or a big multifamily, this is commonality between the two, right? Part of it is having a good eye to understand what you see and have a good understanding of what it might cost to fix something. Okay. Experience, of course, tells you all this stuff too. The more you know, the more of these deals you do, you're going to be able to see it and understand it, of course. Part of it too, though, is that if you're able to get into a mastermind or something like that, you can share. Here's some photos of of a furnace or something like that. Oh, look at this furnace. What do you guys think about it? Well, that furnace is old. It's got to be replaced. Budget X amount of dollars, depending on where it's located. Because just because it's say in Cleveland, Ohio, the price of a furnace is going to be different here than it would be in, say, Miami, Florida, because labor costs are different between here and there. And so is the price of the unit, and because you don't need the same type of heating system that you would here as you would down there. These are all little nuances you have to really understand and get. But anyway, understanding how that stuff works is going to be important. You're going to also have to get an appraisal on the. I think in both cases you have to get an appraisal anyway. So you want to understand it. But like I said earlier, usually with single family homes and small multifamily, the appraisal, the asset value is largely dependent on comparable sales in the local market, where multifamily are appraised on the money they generate. Okay, the NOI. That's what matters. That's what matters most. Okay. So generally speaking, whenever we do our deals, at least these days anyway, we usually do a 45-day due diligence, 45-day close. That's generally what we do. It used to be 30-30. But I think given that lenders have been under a great deal more pressure these days, we decided to give them some extra breathing room. And we found that the sellers have been somewhat understanding about this. Usually the sellers are understanding about this. So it's, yeah, that's generally what it is, right? We also have to keep in mind whenever you're putting in offers for any type of deals, all right, what sort of holidays are coming up. And it's not just the typical American holidays too. There's also other holidays to keep track of, and taking into account different people's religions and different people's holidays, because again, that will have an impact on your ability to close. So be aware of that, right? So you definitely want to know what's going on with that. So putting these deals together takes time. Okay, if you're talking to a bank, like I said, get the pre-approval letter. You want to get all that stuff knocked out front before you even start looking at deals. Get the pre-approval out of the way. What I typically do when I'm doing big commercial deals is I like to get the numbers and I like to send them over to my guy that works on the commercial side and send it over to him and say, hey, what product do you see for this type of asset and these types of numbers? What sort of deal do you see here? So before I even go look at the asset, I have an idea as to what the deal is going to look like from the financial perspective. Because before I go look at the asset, usually the broker might send you a deal and you may make arrangements to go look at it in a handful of days or whatever, but I'm already underwriting it. I'm already trying to figure out how is the deal going to flow? What sort of debt are you going to put on it? Is it going to be bridge debt? Is it going to be, you're going to have to get, can you go right to permanent? What are the rents need to look like? Is it below rent already? Things like that. You want to know all these things fairly quickly, right? And the more deals you underwrite, the faster you can do this kind of stuff. Okay. What's the third thing? Capital. You're going to need a lot more capital to do bigger deals. Okay. Now, again, if you're doing big multifamily type of deals, definitely need a lot more capital. Usually you're putting down 20-25% just for the down payment, the equity needed, right? And depending on the condition of the asset, you're going to probably need to raise some extra money to set aside for the repairs and other type of work you want to do. If you're doing small multifamily, it's a little different. Sometimes you have to put down 20%, depending on what the deal looks like. But if you're doing like a house hacking type scenario, what you're able to do is you're able to put down 3.5%. And that in itself could be a really great deal if you're house hacking, right? Depending on the size of the loan, depending on the size of the units, depending on the rents, a lot of dependencies here. But the point is that you're in both cases, you have one roof to manage, you have all the units under one roof. And you're able to control your expenses on that one roof, right? So it works out great that way if to control costs, of course, right? Now, like I said, the one big mistake that you multifamily investors make is not raising enough money to do everything right the first time. They have the intention of trying to fund it from cash flow, fund the repairs from cash flow. Kiss of death, don't ever do that. Okay, if you're trying to raise money for a deal and you can't get people to sign up for the deal, as much as I hate to say kill the deal, then you kill the deal, right? If the bank is not on board with the deal, you're having a hard time finding the bank to get on the deal, it's probably a bad deal, guys. Don't do the deal, right? Again, this is kind of the reason why, when I said earlier, I try to get the bank on board sooner than later. And that's because if the bank is not on board with the deal, they don't like the deal, it's probably a bad deal. Why? The bank is your biggest partner on that deal, right? The bank's bringing 75, 80% of the money. If the bank does not like the deal, they're not excited about it, why do the deal, right? Makes sense, right? If you're the whole thing of the whole concept of OPM, other people's money. Well, if other people's money is 80% of that money, the bank, they're not crazy about it, don't do the deal, right? So that's a really really important factor when you're considering doing these types of things. Okay, so speaking of that, I have another downloadable on how to raise capital. Okay, so if you go to guide2capital.com, go ahead and check that out. Go ahead, download that. Again, totally free. We'll include a link in the description when we go to post this too, by the way. Okay, so make sure we put that in there. And yeah, we'll have that in there too. So definitely check that out. All right. So what's the fourth thing? Larger team. So if you're doing a bigger multifamily, you're going to need a big team to help you manage the asset, right? If you're doing, smaller multifamily, you can probably manage it on your own. Like if you're doing, say, between 10 to 16 units, or even 2 to 16 units, you can manage it on your own for the most part, right? If you're doing 75 or even 80 units and up, you can get property management to do it. In the middle here is what I call the danger zone. That's the danger zone right there. And what that means is that it's too big for you to manage, but it's too small for a property manager to care. If the property manager doesn't care, they'll steal from you. They won't run the property the right way. They won't pay attention to it. It'll be a disaster. Okay, so this is the reason why, if you're going to do this on your own, try to stick 16 units or lower. And again, keep in mind, 5 to 16 is commercial. It's a commercial type of deal. It's a different deal structure, right? Not impossible, but just a different deal structure. And if you're doing like a 1 to 4 unit, or rather a 2 to 4 unit, that's just a residential type of loan. Very easy to manage and get to underwrite and so on. So, and again, if you've never done a multifamily before and you're a bit on the nervous side about it, I'm all for starting off with a 4 unit. Go ahead and do that. Do it. You should do it. Okay. One thing to also consider in any case when you're putting these deals together is making sure you have a quality broker. And by broker, I also mean like real estate agent, same thing, realtor, right? Someone who knows how to look at a deal. Very important, because if the person doesn't know how to look at a deal, if they don't even know what NOI is, they're gonna have problems, okay? You just will, right? Some realtors, they're just looking to put people in single family homes. Again, not mad at those folks. Some of my good friends of mine are realtors too. I'm not throwing stones or anything. If your intent is to start building a business around this and start buying more and more of these assets, you want to partner up with somebody who knows how to do this kind of stuff, knows how to underwrite deals. So in our group, we actually partner up with folks that can help you find those types of deals. Like they know how to underwrite these deals, like on a commercial style of underwriting, but they're still like residential type of spots. So you can get in and you get in with a high degree of confidence that you're getting into a good deal. Okay, part of it is surrounding yourself with the best possible team. Your broker is going to be a really important part of it. If you're going to have property management, your property manager is definitely going to be a big part of your team there too, right? Because these are the folks that are going to try to help you get and run your deals and get and run these deals properly. Okay, so it's very important that you have a good group of people around you. It's also important to know the type of asset you're getting into, right? Some brokers are very good with Class A type of properties. Some brokers are very good with Class C type of properties. Some brokers love doing very down to specific areas only, right? So understanding who the broker is, who the realtor is, what to specialize in, is important. Same thing goes with contractors as well. Same thing goes to property managers. Same thing, okay? The last thing, number 5, is due diligence. I touched on this earlier. It may only take a few hours to underwrite a single family deal, okay? On a 4-unit property, it may take a little more time, right? Because again, you have to verify that, say, all the rents are going in where they're supposed to go, right? Are all the tenants working at different places, or are they all working at the same place incidentally? That's interesting, right? What if the seller, what if all 4 of the people living at a fourplex they're all working for the seller at the same location? That's interesting. That's happened, by the way. All right. And so just to puff up the numbers to make it look like that the person, they all had jobs, right? These are things you look at when you're putting a deal together. Okay. With a single family, like I said, it's not a big deal. The bigger the deal gets, the more complicated it becomes. So due diligence becomes extremely important. Due diligence becomes even more important and more necessary as you get bigger deals that you're looking at too. So you got to put a high level of commitment into looking at each deal with a high degree of accuracy when you're looking at it, right? So listen, investing in multifamily properties is certainly it could take some work, right? Especially when you're first starting out. And I know when I first started out, it was tricky. It was very, very tricky for me. You know, I read a lot of books and I got into the right groups and really got familiar with how to put these deals together. And now it's like I said, we do 3 lines of business. We stay very, very busy with all this stuff, and we've done what, $350 million worth of deals already. You know, so it's a lot of deals. It's a lot of deals, right? However, if you're starting out there right now, okay, get started. If you haven't started already, go ahead and start. Do your first deal. It's okay, you know, and there's people out there that will help you. Will help you get into your first deal too, so you're not going in there and making a major mistake that will cripple you financially for years to come. Okay, because the wrong deal can hurt you if you do it the wrong way. Okay, so knowing how to get into that right deal is extremely important to do. Okay, so like I said, I would say go ahead and start looking at deals today. Get the pre-approval letter. That probably ought to be your first thing to do. If someone's out there right now and you're thinking about getting into the space, the cool thing about getting a pre-approval here, go talk to your lender about it, is that if you're looking at a single family home, they're going to look at your income to buy a single family home. If you're looking at a fourplex, they're going to look at the income from the fourplex multiplied by 0.75, so 75% of that money, plus your income, all gets attached to that mortgage. So you get more loan proceeds on a fourplex than you would on a single family home, because there's more units here, and you're going to be living here, right? That's how the bank looks at it. It makes total sense to do a single family type of deal if you're currently renting right now. You know, it makes total sense to do it. So, like I said, if you enjoyed this video, okay, we're coming up to the hour here, so I want to be respectful of time here. If you enjoyed the show here, you enjoyed this video, you enjoyed this training, be sure to share it out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you go. We greatly appreciate it. Let other real estate entrepreneurs like you let let other people know about us, right? We have well over 400 videos on the Bulletproof Cashflow YouTube channel already, and feel free to share all those as well. Okay, so if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I check the comments all the time, and happy to respond there. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about some of the training programs, shoot us a message. Go to bulletproofcashflow.com, just shoot us a message, and someone will respond to you, or just send us a message on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. We're all there. So thank you very much for your time, guys. Really appreciate it, and take care. Okay, talk to you soon.